Welcome to Organizational Behavior Week 7. This is BS311. We're going into Unit 7. So I wanted to go over a few things with you. This is Diana Block, your online instructor. This week we will be reading chapters 13 and 14. And chapter 13 relates to power and influence, and so that's still in the leadership section. And then chapter 14 starts our learning about conflicts. So both of those will be very interesting chapters. So as always, with the assignment, you have the assignment questions from the textbook here, page 364, the Walt Disney Company case, and pages 392, 393, solve this manager's problem. You'll answer the questions at the end of the cases based on the material that was in the chapter. Make sure you're using concepts and terms that are from the chapter to answer those questions. You also do have a quiz this week. The quiz will cover chapters 9 through 14, so everything since the last quiz. And that's a 40 question multiple choice quiz. So you will also, of course, have discussion this week, so make sure you participate in the discussion forum. And I do want to remind you that next week our first paper is due for the class, our movie analysis paper. This was mentioned in Unit 1, and then a couple of weeks ago in my video for Week 5, Week 5 or 6, I also discussed the movie analysis paper. I encouraged you to strongly get a hold of one of the movies on my list. And make sure you have that available to you to view so that you can submit your paper, Unit 8. If you haven't gotten a hold of that movie yet, you still have some time, but you need to get a copy of the movie very quickly so that you can complete your paper and submit it in Unit 8. So I want to spend a little bit of time just making sure you're on the right track as far as the paper, because every term I do have some people who do the paper incorrectly. And not according to the instructions, which results in very low scores when the instructions aren't followed. So I encourage you to go back to Unit 1 if you didn't print the movie or all of the paper instructions back then. Do that now. But let me talk specifically about this movie analysis paper. This movie analysis paper is for you to take one of the movies on my list, watch that movie, and then write a paper analyzing organizational behavior concepts that are in that movie. The purpose of the paper is not for you to just tell me what happened in the movie. So I'm going to walk through an example. Say if the movie that I was going to write my paper on was The Wizard of Oz. And that's not one of the choices. I'm just going to use that as an example. But if I was writing a paper about organizational behavior within The Wizard of Oz, I would not start writing my paper and say this paper is about a girl who falls asleep and has a dream that she wakes up in the land of Oz and is told to kill a witch. Even though that's what happened in the movie, that's not the purpose of this paper. It's not for you to tell me about the movie. Please don't do that. If you write a paper that's like a book report where you're just writing out everything that happened in the movie, you're going to have a disappointingly low score. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take all the reading that we've done in the past 14 chapters as of this week related to organizational behavior. I want you to watch the assigned movie and identify organizational behavior concepts that are in that film. For example, when I watched The Wizard of Oz, I noticed that there were various types of power present in the film. Power was demonstrated by multiple characters in the film. So I might, as an example, state in my paper that the Wizard of Oz himself demonstrated coercive power. Coercive power, according to our text, happens because there is a fear of being punished if someone does not comply with another's wishes. So our characters, Dorothy, the Lion, Tin Man, and Dorothy, Lion, Tin Man, and the other characters, all the characters, fear retribution from the Wizard of Oz if they do not kill the Wicked Witch of the East. If they do not meet his requests, then they will not have their wishes granted. So this would be an example of the organizational behavior concept, coercive power. So while I'm on the subject of power, Dorothy also seemed to have some power and influence over her team, the Tin Man, the Lion, and the Scarecrow. The power that she had over them, our text calls referent power. This is power that is given because someone identifies, likes, and admires, identifies with, likes, and admires a person. So the characters that she encountered on her way to the Emerald City, the Lion, the Tin Man, and Scarecrow, found that they liked Dorothy. They could identify with her and admired her. And because of those feelings towards her, they were influenced by that to follow her on her journey to the Emerald City and assist her in her task of having to kill the Wicked Witch. This was referent power, an example of that. The Good Witch demonstrated legitimate power. Her powers superseded those of other witches. So that could be an example of legitimate power. So you see in these simple examples, what I'm doing is I'm not telling every scene by scene of what happened in the movie. What I'm doing is taking a concept from our course, power, and explaining how power was demonstrated in this film. In the film, I have another example. As I watched this movie, I noticed that there were conflicts, as there are in every workplace and every situation in life. There are conflicts. And there are different ways that people deal with conflicts. We have different types of individual styles for handling interpersonal conflict. So if I was looking at styles for handling interpersonal conflict in The Wizard of Oz, I think I would identify Dorothy as an integrator. According to our text, integrators are people who show high concern for both self and others and are good at getting different groups to work together. So Dorothy, as she goes along her journey on the Yellow Brick Road, she encounters various characters. She shows high concern for their individual conflicts that they're facing. She also was able to encourage them to work together as a unit to solve their collective conflicts. So that would be an example of an integrator style for handling conflict. Another example is an avoider. The text says an avoider is people who have low concern for themselves and others and therefore tend to withdraw from conflict situations. You might consider the cowardly lion an avoider, according to our textbook definition. When encountered with conflict along the way, or with anyone he encountered on their journey, his first response and solution is to withdraw from the situation. So he could be an example of an avoider. Okay, so I've just given you a couple of easy examples of what I'm looking for. I want you to take whatever concepts in the book you feel apply to the movie. So through these last 7 weeks, we've talked about motivation, we've talked about teams, groups, we've talked about personality, we've talked about decision making, and various other concepts related to organizational behavior, leadership styles, power, influence, team effectiveness. So in the movies that I've selected, I already know each of those movies. I've already seen them all, so I know that each of them is about an organization. There's an organization that is the central character in each of those films. So many of our course concepts are going to be present there. As the characters interact with each other in the film, identify the organizational behavior concepts that you see being displayed, and that is what I want you to describe in your paper. the organizational behavior concepts that are present in the film. So you'll use scenes from the film to simply explain the organizational behavior concept, not to just give me a play-by-play of what happened in the movie. Okay, so I'm hoping that this additional information will make sure that everybody completes the paper correctly. And again, I reminded you a couple of weeks ago to go ahead and get a copy of one of those movies, and multiple people will write about the same movie. So any of those on that list you can select. It doesn't matter what your classmates have selected. I'm looking forward to reading those. And again, that paper is not due until Unit 8, but I wanted to make sure you had time before you started writing it. A lot of people start on these assignments early. So before you started writing, I wanted to make sure that you are following the instructions correctly so that there's no rework later. But as far as this week, you've got your discussion, you've got an assignment, and you have a quiz this week. I will have office hours as usual, Monday and Wednesday nights. Monday 8:30 to 10 p.m., Wednesday from 5 to 6:30 p.m. If you have any questions, you can email me at any time, and you'll always receive a response within 24 hours. And so that's my Unit 7 lecture, and I have a great week.